Good morning, everyone. This is Rama on Riding, coming to you live from a still dark but warm Kailua Kona, Hawaii. Welcome, everyone. For those of you who missed last week's webinar, which was called Branding Your Blog, I will be posting an actual blog. From that, I've got most of it written, and I actually followed my own instructions, and and it was really fun. So I'm going to use this kind of as a template for authors, and I'm going to try to do this every Saturday. Is to create a blog posting from the webinar along the lines of how I feel a blog is most effective. And of course, it's really kind of easy when you're summarizing a webinar as opposed to like thinking, oh boy, what am I going to talk about in this blog posting today? So things are different than if I was just kind of making this stuff up. But with that said, today's topic originally was going to talk about the demographics of social media sites, and then I realized, well, so what? The real question that needs to be worked on is, how do we find our audience, our demographic on social media? So it took me a little bit of time during the week before the light bulb went off, and I said, well, let's try to be more practical. But I am going to get into some of the demographics and some of the trends that are affecting social media, and see if we can kind of put everything together. So first off, and I think everyone knows this, but do they really know how big Facebook is? Okay, Facebook is 2 or 3 times larger than any other social media site out there. So a presence on Facebook is a necessity. Now, with that said, Facebook has peaked. Okay, so it is not considered the fastest growing of the social medias. And of course, I did a quick Google search. This cracked me up, really. I did a quick Google search on which social media is growing the fastest. And if you just read the titles of the articles in that simple search, which is the fastest social media, growing site, I see Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr. So there may not be a consensus, is the point that, shocked me, actually. I figured that, these are statistics. I'm a numbers guy. How difficult is it to say this one grew at this rate, that one grew at that rate? But there doesn't seem to be a clear consensus based on the titles of those articles. Just to give you a heads up here, and I've got some articles that I'm kind of referencing. Okay, so the percentage of online adults who use the social media, and I'm not sure why they use the term adults and what that really refers to, but they pick Facebook at 71%, and then LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter are all around that 25%. So those are your big sites, and they do have a slightly different demographic as you look at it. But gang, the younger generation is out using social media compared to us old fogies, and this is perhaps a challenge for us, because we have a product and we have ourselves that we're looking to market, and we can't necessarily market to our peer group because it may not be there on social media So, as I say, that's why I changed my topic to, well, how do we find our audience? And of course, the first step is to sit back and think for a second, well, who the heck is our audience? We're going to get into that in a moment. I just kind of want to cover a few things yet. I want to bring up a couple of demographic charts that I was looking at just to give people an indication of what's out there. Okay, now, almost universally, except on, I think it's except on LinkedIn, women outpace men in the use of social media. And if you look at our author group, women way outpace the men as far as book writers, or at least book writers with the Tom Bird method. So I'm not sure exactly why that happens, but that's an obvious thing that's going on. The second biggest country of social media users, and this one was a surprise, but if you sit back and you think about it, it's not that surprising, is India. So it's the U.S. dramatically, and then India is the next one. I think Brazil is in the top 3 or 4 as well. So obviously, industrial countries, seem to gravitate towards this system. The younger generations, I think it's from 18 to 35, and it's actually two age groups that they break things up into, are the strong majority of social media users. And as we were discussing before before I started the recording, the big shift in social media has occurred as users interface with their mobile device, their phone or their tablet. And I suspect it's mostly the phone at this point. I think tablet sales have dropped significantly, and I think the phone sales are probably starting to drop now, but everyone has one at this point in time. And one of the things that many of us haven't sorted out yet is how do we use our phone on social media? And some of us have antiquated phones and others don't. Others have new iPhones but are still not necessarily using them for social media. Well, I suspect that this is going to be the trend that we're all going to gravitate towards, is using our phones for social media. And if you go to the iTunes store, where all the apps live, or the Play Store where all the Google apps live, there are a million different social media apps. There are ones that will post to several social medias at a time, and there are ones that are specific to individual social medias. And even the ones that are individual, like my Instagram app, that is an Instagram product essentially, will also post to Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and I think there's one more, but I can't remember offhand, and I can't find my phone yet this morning. It's probably plugged into the wall somewhere, so I can't look at it. And it's quite an interesting change. Now, I don't know if any of you are old enough, or young enough, maybe the answer to the question is, to remember MySpace. Well, MySpace was the social media site. Nowadays, MySpace is gone, essentially. And, if you look at the trends that are facing the Facebooks and the Google Pluses, you're going to find that they're following the course of what happened to MySpace. Now, I'm not saying that Facebook is ever going to disappear. Google Plus may. it seems that Google has kind of abandoned it itself because it just didn't really take off. It had a spike when they brought it out, and then that was it. With that said, does that mean we don't post on Google Plus? Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, Google Plus does have its place in social media, and its place is right next to Google search. So anything that you do post to Google Plus has a tendency to be found in the Google search quicker, more better than other social media. So it is one of the ones that we want to at least identify a profile for. And when you do set up your profile, you do want to find a place to tell the world, especially Google Plus, that you're an author. For those of you who missed Darnita's discussion before we started, was that she was playing around on Facebook and found something called life events, and under life events there was something about writing a book. So she filled that out, and she got a big spike in response from people she didn't even know, as well as people that she did know. So one of the important components of social media is to identify us as authors. And if we are going to promote a platform beyond that, we do need to identify that in our profiles as well. And I'm looking at the faces, and I do believe that there are some online today that do have a teaching, coaching type platform that they're rolling out or have rolled out, and are looking for a way to utilize social media to help with this. So it's important to look at these components. And if you take a step back to last week, one of the key components on posting to social media is to think about your keywords. And your keywords and your branding are components that override even the daily posts. And you have to go back into the profiles and make sure that you've identified them. There are tools out there that can help you with these sorts of things with your posts. I can't remember any of the names offhand, and I'll probably have to do a webinar on some of these in the future, but there are softwares that actually can rank a post, rank a blog, rank a website to determine the effective use of your keywords. So that's something that we will get into in the future, but it is kind of following on last week's discussion on branding and branding your blog. Okay, so we've determined that Facebook is big and is the biggest, but it's not growing the fastest. We've determined that MySpace is no longer there. We've determined that Google Plus is basically dead, but because of its proximity to Google search, we do need to put at least a profile up, and perhaps a regular sort of set of posts. It may not be that important to be on there every day. We've determined that the younger generation is on social media 24/7. They use social media like we were brought up using the telephone. And this is a huge shift. And this is why some of those newer social medias are growing hugely fast. The Snapchat, the Instagram, the Tumblr, Pinterest. Twitter is still pretty strong, but it's not the #2 anymore. I think Instagram has taken over that spot. But these are more communication or real-time communication social medias. And So we have to think about our use of them and think about, well, how do we get involved in these components to make it seem like we're actually engaging on a real-time basis? And the only authors that I've really spoken to that have experienced this at all, I think, is Deb McTiernan, and she does a lot on Twitter with her younger clientele. And this one's right up your alley, Jill. So you probably want to start thinking along these lines. Deb communicates with young gals, teenagers in all the world. We're fortunate that English is a very well-used language in countries that have other languages, but Deb has really found her niche that way, and maybe it's because I speak with her very often that I hear her stories. One of the things that we've talked about is her having a slumber party with some of her young teenage girls, whether it's through the Zoom sort of thing or through some new component of social media that I'm sure is going to come up soon. I'm not sure yet how it's going to roll out or if it will. Deb does have a lot of great ideas, but she is busy like all of us, and some of them never are filled on. So, it's good to have ideas. It's good to experiment. And Darnita's story at the beginning was the classic story is, well, I was clicking things on my social media account and look what I found. Okay, and this is how we all, I'm not sure if the kids do this, but us old people do, because we don't really know what the heck social media is yet. We don't have a purpose behind it other than the fact that everyone tells us, oh, you need to be on social media to promote your book. And that's a tall order for us, because first off, the term social media kind of leaves a bad taste in our mouth, and second of all, we're not attached to our phone like the younger generation. So it's a struggle, even texting. When I text, I use my one finger, and I'd say a third of what I click is the wrong letter. And the kids use they use their thumb, and they can text on their phone much quicker than I can even type on a computer. So it's like an appendage to them, and it's just not to us. So we're at a disadvantage. Okay, so we've talked about a few different names of social medias. They're essentially all the same, that yes, we post things on them. And posting is different from one to the other. Some of the social medias seem to have a slightly different purpose, although for the life of me, I'm not clear on that, other than LinkedIn, which is considered a professional social media. And that may be good for some of us. It may not be. I'm not sure if professional social media really is where I would post stuff about mountain biking. It may be. I really haven't gotten into it to that point where I'd even, have much of a presence on LinkedIn. And because it's a professional type of social media, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because that's not really who I feel my audience really is. I mean, there's some professional people that ride mountain bikes, but whether there are huge numbers of those on LinkedIn or not, I have no idea. Which takes me to the next component of our discussion today: is where do we find our audience? Well, I think the first step, obviously, is, well, who is our audience? And I don't know if we think about this enough in this process. I mean, when we get our style evaluation, the style editor provides a little insight into who our audience is, but in all seriousness, it's not a great amount of effort. They look at the topic of the book and say, oh, this would be good for new age readers, or this would be good for people that like reading mysteries and stuff like that. And that's, marginally helpful at best. So step number one is we've got to look at what the heck we're doing and think, well, gosh, who is our audience? And I suspect that I'm going to have to do this webinar again on finding our audience and actually do some research, because this is a little bit beyond my brain from what I've read. Okay, I haven't devoted a lot of time to trying to discern who is the audience for our books. Now, once we've determined our audience, I have a pretty good idea of how we find that audience on our social media. So the first step for us is to look at other authors who write in our genre, or if we're a therapist or a coach, look for some of the therapists and coaches that are on social media. And the easiest way to do that is to Google some broad terms and see who comes up. Because those people that come up under those broad terms are doing something with keywords, okay? So they're trying to be a big player. So once you find their names, then the next step is to go to social media, to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter, and see if we can identify their profile in the social media. And then the game comes, well, look, if person A and person B and person C are following an author who writes similar to us, there's a good chance that they're going to like what we're writing. So we're going to want to follow them or communicate with them. Our goal isn't necessarily to get a response from that famous author, because, they're probably not even doing their own social media. They probably have a company that's doing it for them, or a Denise that's posting, or a Jody or someone like that. So their interrelationship isn't really there. But their audience is interrelating with that author one way or another, whether they're a passive follower or whether they're making comments, which takes me to the next step is, well, maybe we ought to look at who's commenting on the post of that famous author or therapist. And maybe that's a better approach to look and follow them. Because one of the keys to social media is engagement. And this is where both Catherine and Deb really excel. They understand that if somebody likes their post, or somebody reposts a tweet or reposts a post or makes a comment, that, boy, you can make a lot of brownie points if you engage that person. Which means, Catherine, if someone retweets one of her posts, she has a system where she can identify who that was, and she leaves a comment, "Thank you for retweeting my post." I mean, it's as simple as it gets, right? Deb McTiernan had a wonderful occurrence. I think it was last year, could have been the year before. Years tend to get smudged together a little bit. But one year she had 500 people wish her a happy birthday on Facebook. Well, Deb, being the smart person that she is, she thanked everyone individually who gave her birthday wishes. Well, what was the result? The result was that her book went back to #1 in her category. Engagement, thanking people, And this is the human experience. If you continue to post and comment and nobody comments back, how long can you do that before you lose interest and try to find a place where there's more engagement? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. There's some people that just like making comments and they don't care. They're just a supportive type of person. But guarantee that if you do engage people on your social media, you will be more successful. Okay, now for us, the problem with social media is the same problem we have with our blog postings, is that it's not going anywhere. We're not seeing any concrete results, most likely. Some of it is because we're newbies and we don't know what the heck we're doing. So, we have a very small following. Sometimes it's because the small following that we have is not engaging with us. And some of the reasons is maybe that small following is engaging and we're not engaging back. So we're, kind of leaving the ball in midair and not fulfilling on, what we need to. If we're walking on the street and someone says hi to us, we generally respond back, "Hey, how you doing?" Well, we don't tend to think that way with our social media, mostly because we don't know what the heck we're doing. And we don't have a plan, and we have no procedure, and things like that. So, it's not that we're doing it wrong. It's just that we don't know what the heck we're doing. And I think that that's the big reason why Catherine and I have started out on this endeavor, because we feel that that's the flaw with most people. And this is not authors only, okay? This is everyone that's looking to utilize social media for their business, is that, nobody knows what the heck we're doing, and the kids are so far beyond us that we can't even think that way, because we're not attached to our phone like they are. It's like a finger to them or a hand, and so it's just a natural thing for them to do. And it's really interesting watching the younger generation. So I do recommend that if you don't have a kid in your life, a teenager or 20-year-old, that you hang out in a place, whether it's a mall or it's a coffee shop, and watch a little bit. And just see what's going on, and it's really mind-boggling. I was at the beach one day, and there was a gal laying on her blanket, and she had her phone, and of course the kids do it all with one hand. They're not holding their phone with a hand and scrolling with the other hand. They do it all with one hand. And at first I thought, well, maybe she's reading a book online, on her phone. And then it dawned on me, because she's constantly scrolling with her thumb, that no, she's working in social media here. And it took me a while to figure out what she was actually doing. This isn't what we're used to doing, and we do need to develop a system of actually using the device, as well as a system for making posts and working within social media. So we have two steps that we have to fulfill on. One is actually figuring out how to use our phone for social media, and the other is to figure out what we're doing with social media, so that we, aren't just bumbling along, that we kind of have a plan that we're following. Whether how loose it is, who knows? Because I'm on social media, but I don't really have a plan. I repost things. The only account that I have any sort of plan for is my Rama on writing one, and that one I know I post articles to. And unfortunately, the articles don't have a lot of play, but when I post a cartoon, boy, that really gets a lot of play. So, I've determined that people like funny cartoons, and they like pictures of animals doing funny things. That doesn't necessarily help us, promote our book, but it does help us engage with an audience. So, by adding a few of those funny cartoons and not taking this stuff all that seriously, we'll probably make huge inroads and get a bigger audience and a bigger response out of a dumb cartoon than we do out of something serious that we're looking at. I don't know if any of you have noticed that in your Facebook feed nowadays that about every third or fourth posting is a paid advertisement. And if you're a business person, you know right away why. Facebook, had their IPO, and they are now a publicly traded company, which means that they need to show profit every quarter or their stock price goes down. Well, the way to show profit is to sell advertising. And there are a lot of people that are advertising. I noticed that on my Facebook feed, there's a lot of author type advertisement. There's a lot of marketing type advertising. I'm not sure if that's what you see on yours. If you are a shopper, you're going to find advertising relating to what you've been looking at shopping. And this happens because they're taking all the information from they're tracking you, okay? They're watching what you do, and there's software that basically puts you in column A or column B, and that advertiser knows, column A people are a good market for me, so they advertise on your feed based on the software presence. Now, we can also advertise on Facebook, and I've had a little bit of experience with this when I was doing some work for Tom early on. There are ways that you can buy some presents in certain categories. When we were looking to promote a retreat in Las Vegas, for example, we can have an advertisement show up on people's feeds that live in Vegas. So if you have a location that you're teaching a program or doing a presentation, well, you can roll this out to a locale, and you can have an advertisement that comes up, and you pay a little bit. When I was doing it, Facebook was offering, some contests. It says, well, look, if you get 500 new likes on your professional page between now and when the program ends, we'll give you $50 worth of free advertising. Okay, this was right at the beginning of when Facebook went public. I don't know if they do that these days or not, because I'm really not doing that much with Facebook anymore. But that's a viable program, and it's somewhat inexpensive, and it does get you in front of new people. I have a friend that has a mountain bike coaching business, and that's how they market. They spend, I think, about $1,500 a year, or maybe it's a quarter, and they get their money's worth. They get big growth. Now, we're going to see this happen with all of the social medias. And it's starting to. Even on Instagram, there's definitely paid advertisement that shows up. And, from our user side of things, it kind of sucks that you have all these ads now, because that's really not what we're looking at when we're out looking through our Facebook and our Facebook friends. But from the standpoint of marketing, there's a lot that we can learn from this. And that's what I find is that you look at the people that are the good marketers and you get on their lists and you look at what they're doing, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. There are systems out there in place, and this is especially true with blogging. There are people that have mailing lists and blogs that go out 4 or 5 times a week, and they offer free things, and you click on them and you give you the email address, and if you haven't responded to one of their emails for a long time, you get an email saying, what did I do wrong? You've abandoned us. And so they're looking for a way to get you back engaging, at least opening the email. And this is all software driven. Okay. For those of you who are new to Constant Contact, and I checked this out this morning because, before Darnita showed up, nobody had popped in. And I was wondering, oh boy, did my email go out? Did anyone look at it? Did it get open? And so I opened up, the Constant Contact account, and I looked at, what transpired. And sure, 552 people opened the email, 43 people clicked on one of the links. It was a little bit behind last week, but it went out a day late because I forgot to send it out Thursday, and so I did it Friday. I almost forgot to send it out Friday. So, these are the things that we can learn through the use of certain softwares. Now, one of the things I encountered today, and this was kind of interesting. Let me see if I can come up. I think it's called Sprout. Let me see if it's on. I have a couple of pages open. It's called Sprout Social, and this was the first thing that came up when I did my search for social media demographics. And if you haven't guessed, what does Sprout Social do? Sprout Social analyzes your social media friends to come up with your demographic. So, there are tools out there that we can utilize. Of course, all of this costs money on a monthly basis. So if you were to sign up for Sprout Social, you better have a plan for using it instead of just doing it and checking it out and seeing what happens. The good news is that most of these systems do have a free trial, so you can sign up for free. Be careful, though, because they all ask for your credit card information, and if you don't cancel it, you get charged a monthly fee until you cancel. So be really, really careful with spending any funds on these kind of programs. I think that I've done this many times where I've been to a presentation, and boy, it sounds really good, and I've spent the $49 to do the advanced program and then never did anything. That's important for us not to get involved with. And I hate to say it, but it happens with our publishing program. There's at least 20% of the people that pay us, $5,000-$6,000 that never publish a book. And I never hear from them. They are lost in space somewhere, and it's shocking to me, because to me that's a huge amount of money. But the reality is that out of sight, out of mind. They spent the money and they've moved on. And Tom and I have looked at a way of alleviating that, and I think it was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we did put a time clause in our contract. Now, we've never exercised it, but the reason is that we get people that lose contact. And in reality, the only way that they can publish a book is if they start all over. After 2 years, if they haven't done anything with that book, they've changed to the point where, the book isn't meaningful anymore. It's not written meaningfully, and you can't necessarily get back into that flow of 2 years ago to rework it. Now, if you've engaged for the last 2 years and you're just slow at doing it, that's a different story. That's not the client. Yeah, Amy raised her hand. I'll raise my hand on that one too. But that's a different scenario, because you haven't lost touch with your book. The ones that are very frustrating are the ones that 2 or 3 years disappear, and then they say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get back into my book now." Well, what are their alternatives? So be real careful. If you find a good program that sounds interesting, make sure that if you are going to pay for it, that you're going to follow through and actually utilize the information that they're offering. The information is always good. There's no, all these social media experts offer good insights for people like us that haven't a clue of what we're doing. But if we're going to just do that first webinar and not follow through, then it's better to pick their brains on a free basis and move on to the next. Okay, so how do we go about doing this engagement on social media? How do we find our audience? How do we find our demographic? Where do we go? What do we do? Okay, number one, first step is to develop a regular presence. That might be an hour twice a week on social media. It might be 15 minutes every day, a half hour every day, an hour every day. It's important for us to set a parameter. If we're going to dabble in social media, we probably would be better served if we made it a regular sort of thing. Just like with the blog postings, it's important to be regular with them once we get started. So set your time frame. Okay, twice a week, an hour each time. That's not a huge commitment. It may sound like a huge commitment, but I'll tell you that hour will disappear real quick. Initially, we have to start somewhere, and as I mentioned at the beginning, Facebook is the biggest. So we want to have a presence on Facebook somehow. You can have a presence on Facebook through Instagram, gang. And if you didn't figure this out yet, who owns Instagram? Facebook. So these sorts of things are to our advantage. We can use a portal. We could use the if we like the way Instagram posts because we're using our phone and we're taking pictures, well, hey, you can put your hashtags in, click Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and that same post goes to all of those sites. Pretty simple. There's also softwares called dashboards, and probably the best known one is Hootsuite. And I think that Hootsuite started, I haven't checked it lately, but they started with a free component, and then the pro system does other things. Again, I advocate free first. Make sure that you're going to use it. And if you are, then possibly look at the paid, see what it gives you, and see if it gives you something more effective. A lot of times what happens is that the free component will allow you to post to several social medias at a time, but it doesn't give you the analytics. The analytics may only be available in the paid version. And we'll probably be getting into some analytics in some future webinars. Analytics is a way that you can mark your success. There's Alexa. That's a analytics company. Darn it. Catherine was telling me about one, and I'm drawing a blank on the name. I'll have to actually do a whole webinar on the different analytics out there. But that's something that when Catherine and I are talking about our social media program, we want to have a way that you can see your success, your growth. And, you know, Catherine is such a good role model because she's in like the top 5% of, you know, social media users. Oh, Clout was it. Clout is, and I think Clout is a freebie, gang. So go to Clout, set up your account, put your social media in there, and they will generate a number for you. Okay, put that number on your by your computer, and once a month maybe check and see if that number is going in the right direction. That is you know, a good component to do. Otherwise, you know, we're just bumbling along and we really can't tell, except the fact that our Facebook friends went from 2 to 200. That's something. So those are some of the things. Our followers on Twitter have gone from, you know, 3 people to 1,500 or 2,500. So there are analytics built into social media, and then the analytics, like a Sprout, takes all of your social media presence and combines it into a number. So that's a fairly useful tool as well. Okay, well, what we've identified is that, number one, we need a regular time that we're going to spend on social media. We've determined that we have to find our audience some way. We've determined that the easiest way to do that is to look at some of the big players in our field, whether it's writing fantasy novels, or it's coaching life changes, or it's mountain biking, or it's mystery writing. There are big people out there. So let's take a look at what they're doing. And don't hesitate to go from their social media to their website also. See what's going on their website. You know, these are our role models, and what I found by doing this with authors is that everything that we do, they're doing as well, and many of our authors are doing it better than some of the big names in social media. Of course, they've got a big name, so when they publish a book, you know, everyone buys it, so they don't necessarily have to do as much as we do. We're at a disadvantage. We need to market. We need to figure out how to market ourselves one way or the other. And, you know, we're both blessed and we're damned, because we're blessed by the fact that everyone's online and there's huge social media presence, and we're damned because we actually have to work the social media. And that's, you know, our lot in life, gang. So, you know, I can't tell you how many presentations I've done at the retreats talking about the publishing program and then mentioning the word social media. And as soon as I do, people are formulating why they hate social media, even though they don't know anything about it, and why they're never going to use it, even though they don't know anything about it. So, you know, that's where we're all in this group here today. We've taken a step beyond that. You know, we don't spend our time, we don't waste our time coming up with the reasons why we're not going to do it. We've taken the step that we realize that we have to do something. And so we're all doing something. It was like when Jill was doing her poster board at the last retreat. Well, she spent a half hour telling me why she couldn't do it, and she spent 20 minutes doing it and got it done. You know, this is the scenario that we face with our social media also. Jill, you have no idea how memorable that is to me. And I've used that example, and that example has helped, you know, dozens of authors. Just the fact that, you know, once you did it, it was easy for you. But yet we have to get over our own stuff most of the time. And that's what we're dealing with our social media. That's what we're dealing with our blogging. That's what we're dealing with our digital marketing. Because we're authors or healers or coaches or mountain bikers. You know, we're not marketers. I do make a joke that we do have one born marketer in our crew, and that's Anaria. And you can just tell when you speak with her that she's, you know, literally every conversation she's marketing. It doesn't necessarily come across that way, but you can see it in how she holds herself. You know, we're mostly at a disadvantage as a result of that, because that's not our forte. Well, we do need to develop a forte for marketing, one way or another. And there's a lot of different opportunities. What Dominique does is going to be different than what Darnita does, which is going to be different than what Cheryl does, and Dawn, and Amy, and Jill. There are niches for all of us. Now, one of the forgotten things, number one, there's two forgotten things. Number one, Goodreads. Okay? Goodreads is like a hybrid. Goodreads is what I call a book social media. So even though it doesn't have the huge numbers that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter have, it has a very captive audience for authors. And it's run kind of like a social media. People follow you, you like them, you like books. They even have a place that you can post your blog. So this is very important. And before I forget, I've noticed that in Amazon, when you're looking up at an author's page, there's a way you can follow them on Amazon. There's a place where you can post your blog on Amazon. So don't forget it. Okay, take a look. If you're working with Denise, ask her questions. She may not know completely about this either. You know, this is something I think is rather new, or maybe it's just, you know, growing. Okay, now the other thing that's out there that is digital marketing, it is kind of a hybrid of social media, something called forums. They're not social media per se, they are genre specific. For example, there's something called MTBR. That's a mountain biking website, and they've got the biggest mountain biking forum out there. So there are these kind of things for fantasy writers, for romance writers. There are other avenues. And of course, you track him back to Facebook or social media. So it's not an end-all in itself. It's just a way of finding people. And then, you know, there are ways that you can take their names and you can find them on social media. And just to show you, I mean, I almost felt like a stalker when I did this one time. And I don't even know, a friend of mine wanted to move to Hawaii, and you know, he didn't have a place to stay, didn't have a lot of money. So, you know, we started doing a little bit of research on farming co-op opportunities, okay, where basically you're volunteer and they work you until you have had enough. Well, I found this gal that had written a blog posting. I think it was about 6 months of her time, and it was a really nice story. And then it disappeared. It stopped. It's like, oh man, whatever happened to this gal? I mean, she, just reading her story, I had a bond with her, and I said, well, what's she doing now? Well, eventually, I did track her to Facebook, and I made a comment on her page. She never responded, probably because she thought I was a stalker. Big deal. But it was interesting. It was kind of a cool, like I was a detective. And it was interesting to take that route. So there are ways that you can go from a website, a forum. In the old days, the forums were called bulletin board services. And I think there's a name prior to that as well. But don't disregard the forums, because they are real specific for our topics. I know that there is a big fantasy writer forum. It's called Dragon something or other. I can't find it now. I found it one time. There's huge presence in the romance novelist writers. There's a organization, association. So associations are like social media as well. So, you see, Anaria must have known that I was talking about her, so she appeared. Anari, you missed my compliment about you. I said we have one born marketer in our crew, and that's Anaria. So, and then like a couple of minutes later, there you appear. So that was really cute. Okay, gang. I've kind of covered the topic as much as I'm prepared for, and I wasn't very well prepared. So if there are questions or comments at this point, we can start talking about other things. We can even change topics if you've got an interest in something that you have a question about, even if it's in publishing. So if you want to unmute yourself and speak, or raise your hand and I can unmute you, you can certainly do so. Otherwise, I'd be more than happy just to have breakfast. We have a small group. I'll bet you I can unmute everybody all at once here, and it won't lead to too much noise. Well, somebody's got a little noise, but not bad. Okay, you're all unmuted. Does anyone have a comment, question, something else you'd like to talk about this morning?
Breakfast you're buying?
Sure, you just have to show up here and I'll be more than happy to buy you breakfast.
All right.
I found a place that makes gluten-free pancakes.
Ooh la la, as Dominique would say.
Where are you in Hawaii?
Well, I'm above Kailua town, so I'm on the Gold Coast, they call it, sometimes the Kona Coast, and I'm 2,000 feet up, so I'm not near the ocean, although if we look out the front, you can see the ocean about 5 miles away.
Oh, wow. Sounds pretty.
Nice.
It is a beautiful spot. We'll be going down to the beach today. I got my kayak loaded on my car, and I'm not sure which of the beaches I'll be going to, but I think we're going to go up north. The bigger beaches are up north. There's more sand. Perhaps there's Hapuna, which is going to be in my new book. And Hapuna is a top 10 beach in the world. It usually appears in that category whenever somebody is putting those lists together. It's the largest white sand beach on the Big Island. It's quite nice. It hasn't changed a whole lot in 35 years, although 35 years ago there wasn't a hotel just next to the beach. And there was this was one of the coolest things is it had a low aloe growing, like at the back of the beach, so it had its own sunburn care right there. So when you had too much sun, you pull off one of those leaves of aloe and rub it all over yourself, and that was kind of cool. We're probably going to go to a beach that's right next to it. It's called 69 because it's got these curves, and it's not a huge beach. It doesn't have a huge sandy area, but it's a very gentle, fun beach. And it's one of the favorites. Although any beach is really a favorite when you live in the desert in Arizona, right?
Is your friend feeling better?
Actually, he is. It's taken since Christmas Day. He's been in and out of the emergency room, I think, 5 times. But the last 3 days, he's made a marketable return to being able to move. He's gotten over his desire to have back surgery because when the doctor told him what the repercussions are, I think it made him realize that it isn't a simple thing. And so he's gotten into some physical therapy, and he's stretching. And when you haven't stretched in 60 years, a little bit of stretching goes a long way.
Yoga.
Yeah, that will be the next step. Right now, it's just some basic stretching and, the realization that he's got to change a few things in how he goes about living, which includes both some of his habits and also some of the ways his property is set up. There are things that really he shouldn't have to do on a monthly basis or whatever that he is set up to do. So he's got to be a little gentler on himself and a little smarter. And, the thing is, when you see a friend, going through this sort of pain, it impacts you, and you start thinking, boy, I better do things better myself, better and exercise more and things like that. So it does, it does have its repercussions through all of our lives here on this estate. So, these are interesting sorts of things because, ultimately, if you're going through a situation like that, there's no reason why it can't be part of your social media presence too, because people give you advice. You can thank them for the advice. You can learn stuff. One of the things that we struggle with is what is the identity that we want to portray or be portrayed as on social media. I mean, this is our choice. And this does require perhaps a little bit of thinking. What it really requires is branding. Because branding and keywords, as I discussed last week, are the most important components. And since we've kind of gone off topic, I'm going to read you my blog posting from last week that hasn't quite been done, and of course I don't have my website up yet to post it correctly. But I thought that this would kind of be the sample that some of us could use for our blog postings. If you were there last week, you'll remember that the topic was branding your blog. Well, the way I titled this post was hashtag Rama on Writing, branding your blog. Okay, so what did I do right off the bat is I identified my brand, Rama on Writing, and I identified the keywords that I'm using in this post, okay? I mean, I really listened to myself. I'm really proud of this. It's like I'm finally practicing what I preach instead of just talking about stuff and all. And my goal is that if I do it, then I can bring some of you along as well. Because if I'm just talking, talking smack, then that's all just. Okay, now first sentence, gang. Rama on Writing is starting the new year with a webinar about branding your blog because the blog is more important than the book. Okay, what did I do? I hit my branding and my keyword in the first sentence. And I made it work. It doesn't seem contrived. It's cute. It hits the nail. Okay, next sentence. For years, I always assumed that blogs were successful because they were about interesting topics or were cute or funny. Now I know that this is only partially true. ... Read more. Okay, so there's my social media post right there, and I think I got you hooked, right? Because now you want to know how to get that blog to be more successful. So as I say, it worked really well, and when things like that happen, it's like, wow, what I talked about really does work. It makes sense. Okay, so that would be what I would post on social media. That's what I would put in my newsletter, and the read more goes back to the website where the blog lives. And on the sidebar of where that blog lives, you're going to see my book. So subtle marketing, right? I'm not telling people to buy the book, but on the corner of their eye, they're going to see the book cover, and they might click on it, okay? This is the way I feel it needs to be done. Okay, now the body of the blog posting. The real truth is that the back office component of the blog setup is at least, if not more important than the writing and the topic. Using brand names and keywords effectively in the title and the first sentence is critical, and it is the art form of blogging to incorporate them without being contrived or adversely affecting the flow. Continuing the use of these branding and keyword terms throughout the blog posting builds on the success of your blog. Using your branding with or without the use of a hashtag followed by your keyword is essentially what branding your blog is all about. Okay, now, that branding the blog is probably going to be hot linked somewhere, blue link, okay? Because the blue link of a keyword in a posting gives you even more power, more points, more brownie points. Okay, so I've used branding your blog 3 times now, and I've used Rama on Writing twice. And what? I've gotten 100 words into my post. So I'm doing a good job here. Okay, where was I? Okay, the next step is to roll your blog out to social media in an effective way so that you can drive traffic back to your website. One of the most important components of the website is to feature the blog. And by choosing a name for your blog other than the generic term blog, will take you one step further towards branding your blog. The part of the blog that gets posted to social media is the title and the first sentence with a read more link that goes back to your full blog posting on your website. ... Front and center. That's why it is necessary to use the branding keywords in those two places. Many people will add a photo along with their blog posting. By adding your branding and keywords to the actual name of that photo, you will be able to take advantage of an often overlooked opportunity. So you understand why I put that in, right? If you take a photo from the web or you take a photo from your phone, usually it is numbered. That doesn't help you. So if you changed it to Rama on riding #1, that would help, again, get your keywords to be more helpful and more successful. Once everything is in place, the back office of your WordPress website takes over through the use of plugins like Jetpack. Your blog is automatically posted to your social media accounts. In addition, there will be other websites that you may manually need to post to, like Goodreads, considered a book social media site. Well, that was as far as I got on the blog posting. I had one more, about a 50-word paragraph that was going to incorporate my Rama on riding and branding my blog, branding your blog one more time. And then I was going to have the signature where I would go hashtag branding your blog, hashtag Rama on riding, and I might use a number of other hashtags that I've used in the past for different components, okay? So to me, what I was trying to do, #1, was to get my website going, which I haven't quite got yet. #2, I was going to try to develop a system where I might actually blog on a regular basis. And #3, I wanted to create some samples for other authors to look at how to use your branding and keywords in a blog posting, okay? And, you know, it's simple once you get the hang of it. It's not difficult components. And I'm going to try to do another blog posting this evening relating to the webinar that we are working on today. So does everyone understand what I did with that blog? I mean, I tried to spell it out really clearly so that we could all look at our branding and our keywords. Now, one of the things that Greg is still doing, Jill, is that he is helping you come up with 5 keywords to be used. He's not necessarily incorporating them into the pages of your website. That's your job. And he could take them a next step by doing some search engine optimization of your website. But no matter what he does, if you're not going to utilize those keywords and those branding literally every time you write something, you're not going to have the effectiveness that you're after. Okay, so what does Greg do with the keywords? If you remember, you know, he mentioned some kind of software that he uses so that if you give him some keywords, mountain biking in Sedona, he will plug that into some software and he'll come back and say, oh, wait, it would be better if you did Sedona mountain biking or something like that. So he's going to help you identify them. The important component is that the keywords need to kind of cross over between your book and who you are. Okay? So if you're going to write blog postings that aren't fully about your book, you're going to want to look at keywords that are similar that might lend themselves, and you're going to want to use them on a regular basis. In addition, branding, 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 and the use of hashtags branding are going to be pretty critical as we move forward.
Well, I don't see how you can use branding if you're writing fiction. That's one. And then two, I don't see how, if you're blogging and you're not blogging anything about your novels, I don't see how this is going to work either. If your novel is one, if you're a fiction writer, you're just you're always writing different things. So how can you implement this?
Well,
Can I answer that?
Oh yes, by all means.
I'm writing fiction initially because I'm trying to hone my craft to the point where I can actually do justice to writing nonfiction and information security. But I think if you're a fiction writer, you don't necessarily have to be entirely blogging about your book or even the subject of your book or even in the genre of your book. I think it's more important to just kind of write about things you're passionate about, and the sorts of things that are going to be in your novels, but not necessarily directly. Say you're passionate about yoga, or you're passionate about hiking in the woods, or you're passionate about your family, or if you just kind of imagine.
How do you hashtag something that has continuity through your blogs? In other words, I'm pretty clear on my what, if I'm understanding this correctly. Like for my novel, it would be human fairies, it would be gray shadow fairies. But I haven't written one blog about human fairies or gray shadow fairies. I'm writing about vibrators, it's something very different.
Well, then I think since your blog may be kind of all over the map, that you may want to, they may not be keywords and stuff directly associated with your book, but they can be ones associated with your passion, like Rama's Sedona mountain biking, but more particularly, say Catherine Kerrigan's orchid growing, or nature photography, or but expanding beyond that, just whatever your activities are, or the things that you're likely to blog about, get some keywords going in those different subject areas.
And how about the brand? Like, you're the brand, right? Your Amy is the brand. So how do you put that into your blog in the first sentence? Like, Rama, I'm writing. That's who you are. That's your.
That's who I'm blogging. That's my blogging identity on that blog. But if I'm writing on Sedona mountain biking, what I'm going to probably hashtag is Rama on riding, RIDING, just to play on words a little bit. So that's one of the reasons why I'm adamant that you want to name your blog, okay? Because that's a branding component right there. And, your blog could be the Human Fairies blog, even though you're not, writing about that. That could still be your name. Or you could have the Clarissa Hedgestone blog. So you could take that with you, even though it may not tie directly into the topic. It's the name. It could be the Jill blog. You could use your.
What?
In my case, possibly Lady Engineer Amy D.
Okay, so that's to me that's one of the important components of the identity, is to pick a name for your blog, and I plan on having 3 clearly different identities for 3 different types of blogs. You know, the mountain biking blog, the Hawaii blog, and the Rama on riding blog. So I've got my choice. This week, what am I going to write about, or am I going to write a blog a week in each of the topics?
Rama, may I ask you a
Steve,
question?
Rama.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're tumbling right now into the turbulence of the ocean. You're tumbling around, and all we hear is garbling and gurgling. Are you drowning?
Not me.
Oh, that's good.
Darnita, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. This is in talking about the blog. Of course, I'm using my branding as hashtag my author alter ego, and I use that first. And on my first blog, it's hashtag do pets go to heaven, and then the reason I did this is, well, I've done research on that myself, and I wanted to post on that. But in my book, I have pets in there, and that's one of the things that the style editor told me to go a little further with, was a pet that I had in there. She thought she was funny. And also, in my book, it also talks a lot about heaven, because it has a lot of the Native Americans in there and a lot of the Great Spirit. So I added words, even though this blog is not going to be anything about my book, but it's talking about pets, and then it's also talking about heaven, which all of those things are in my book. So is that like what you're talking about? Even though, like I said, the blog has nothing to do with the book.
You know, Darnita, you've gotten it, okay?
Okay.
You found a way that seems to make sense. We talked originally about the author alter ego as a wonderful cutesy branding name for your blog. So you've listened well, and you've found a way to use words in a jigsaw fashion that do tie back somehow or another, okay?
And I thought this would probably start a conversation, because people are going to say, yes, they do go to heaven, and then there's other people that are going to go, no, they don't go to heaven. So, I was trying to bring in comments and get a conversation started about that as well. And then the next blog I have written is called Soul Travel, and it's going to be sort of the same thing, but it's all, like I said, has nothing to do with my book, because it's a crime fiction book, but that's those things. So I don't know if that'll help you or not, but but I think, your fairies, I think that'd be a great blog. I would go to your blog if that was the name of it.
You mean human fairies or gray shadow fairies?
I would. I mean, that would get my attention.
But what if I'm talking about vibrators to get there?
Well, maybe fairies like vibrators. Who knows?
That's the human fairies.
That's a human fairy. There you go.
And I do think that human fairies is a much better term than gray shadow fairies. I think human fairies.
That gray shadow fairies are. I just introduced them in my first novel. They actually get developed in my second. But human fairies are consistent in the book series of Clarissa Hedgestone. That is.
And you can put a lot into there and weave it back to your book.
Mm-hmm.
Weave it back to the book, even though it has nothing to do with it, but weave it back so that you get the title of your book in there also, and keep bringing it back, right back to your book, to one of the topics, or even consider a topic, even if that topic's just like Amy said, it may not be in the book. weave it back to it, like, and then where you're like, end it, well, maybe a human fairy would like yada 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 yada. Check out my book, yada, and there's the name of your book.
You know what? I'm just not a marketer.
You're just shifting your thinking. That's what Rama's trying to show you.
Because everything, to me, it takes away from what I've created, and it's not really my creation.
Change that thought form right there. Right there.
Interesting point of view.
Change that thought form.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's what's holding you back there.
Interesting. Thank you for that.
Well, you know, and you know, thank you.
What you're doing.
You know, Inari, you hit the nail on the head, because other than you, none of us are marketers. Okay.
That's true.
And I haven't marketed in so long, but I look at, my mind shifts, and it's like, all right, how can I put this, which has nothing to do with what I'm really doing, and then turn it into something that will pull it into that. It's that simple. You can usually do it in one line. That fast, just one line. It's like a fishing line, and then you throw the hook out, and you're pulling them right back into it. Because a lot of I don't necessarily have to do with it. Maybe I'll something like to bring it back in, to the crystal and stellar skulls, or what they might say about it. It's like, bring your fairy characters to life, and so that fairy character can give a whole thing about the vibrators, like what they might think about that vibrator. And there you've done it.
Then I got to write a whole new blog. I have like all these blogs are already written.
Well, then go back in and just find the key line. Like, okay, where can I pull this right back into my book?
And maybe you could ask the question at the end of the blog, you know, about, do fairies enjoy vibrators? You know, I mean, that probably wouldn't be your question.
Or you leave that out there. Would human fairies enjoy vibrators? Right?
Okay, so okay, you guys are taking me somewhere. Either identify myself as a human fairy, or I'm going to have Clarissa Hedgestone is my plume, and she is the human fairy. So it's a choice I have to make.
But you are Clarissa Hedgestone.
What?
It's not a choice, because you are Clarissa.
Yeah, there's an aspect of myself that
yes, she's an aspect of yourself right now, and you can make her as outrageous as you want and still walk through the world as Jill.
Yes.
And yet know
still
that
walk.
Yeah. But so that way you can expand on her and her outrageousness, if that's where you want to go. Because it sounded like, okay, I want to write about vibrators. That's a little more outrageous.
I already did write about vibrators.
Okay, then but pull it into Clarissa. Would Clarissa Hedgestone like this? Check out my book. That's it. That fast. See how easy that was? I mean, that quick.
Yeah, I'm creating unnecessary limitations, is what you're doing.
Exactly. And just blow those out.
Right. Blow
those out. And now step into the real simply, okay, I'm going to pull all of these blocks I just wrote right into my book. These are brilliant, and it doesn't matter that they don't have anything to do with the book. You're going to pose questions to people to bring it back to them.
And didn't Rama, at one time, I think I remember him saying that if we go back to our blog and add something to it, it gets it generated again? Is that what I heard you say, Rama?
You know, it is true that if you actually do a blog posting on your website and then you actually add a paragraph to it, that the trigger for the search engine spider to come check you out again is set. Jill, I'm going to make you feel a lot better right now.
Okay.
You know, we all have limitations that we set on ourselves. You're blogging. Think about for a moment that at least half of the authors are setting a limitation by saying, "Oh, I don't want to blog," or "I'm not going to blog." Okay, so don't beat yourself up, and it's a art form, so maybe at first it's hard to start, to see it, okay, it's hard to get the branding, but as you work and work and work, it becomes clearer to you, okay? So it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily change those blog postings that you've already written, but as you move forward, start to incorporate some of these components, because we got to get started. Okay, and you've gotten there, which is huge. That is huge. Now it's incorporating the branding, it's incorporating the keywords, it's posting it correctly to a website and rolling it out through social media with the read more. Okay, all that, and the signature line. Hey, look, if all you do is
do a Saturday with what all you're talking about right now, because I have sort of an inkling of what, the haze is starting to disperse a little bit. But if you would you need to do more just in this, what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I plan to with our new social media program, because it's all linked together. It should really be called a digital marketing program, but we're calling it the game of social media. And this is the direction that I see we are all lacking in. No matter how good that we can do. Even Catherine has flaws in her system. One is that she doesn't rename her pictures, so she's still using a picture that has a number sequence. But if she could put, even Catherine Carrigan or Unlimited Energy or Banish the Blues or any of her titles, it would give her more power.
And that's another Saturday and another blog for you. I'd love to read that, and I very much want to hear you on YouTube and write, next Saturday about that, about the photographs and doing titles. That's another blog. These are 2 blogs that you need to write.
Jill, you're a step ahead of me. You've gotten yourself writing blogs on a regular basis, so you're way ahead of me.
Yeah, well.
It's I'm just, I just see the jigsaw puzzle. That's why I call it a jigsaw puzzle, right? Is that you have to figure a way to creatively put these components into it. And it may not come easy, it may not come quickly, but it will come. You'll see that, 2 months from now, you're not going to ask the same questions. You're going to have it figured out and you're going to be incorporating these things. Just understand that everything takes time to develop, okay? As I mentioned, that I'm amazed at how successful Tom was at getting the authors to blog. The downside was that he didn't talk about what needed to be in the blog. Okay, the branding and the keywords, okay, and the way it's rolled out. So that's just the next step. It's a step of evolution, and we're all gonna, if we want to, we can all achieve it. You're as smart as anybody else. Maybe you're smarter. You're creative, so this isn't rocket science, okay? But at first, I can see your resistance, right?
Yeah.
But
these are all blogs, Rama, that you have to write so I can read them.
Hey, it's all
rocket science.
It's all coming, and I found this stuff by reading online. I didn't know any of this stuff. My mind works differently than anyone else's, just like all of our minds work differently, and so we all kind of come up with our own pattern. But I remember talking to Darnita about her author alter ego, and when she said that, I said, oh my gosh, that's a perfect name for your blog. And she heard me when I said it too. That was the beauty.
So when you say title, what you're meaning is the brand. There's a brand that you have, and then below the brand is the title. And the title relates to the brand. Am I hearing this right or not? And I'm picking up your accent already.
Well, the brand, like, let me go back to the first sentence here of this blog posting, okay? Brand name, hashtag Rama on writing.
Yes.
Keyword topic for the blog, branding your blog.
Okay.
Okay, so I put those both in the title of the blog. Okay, I did what I feel is correct, and nobody told me this. If I read stuff, I don't find it laid out this way. This is just what my gut feel tells me is how it's done. Okay, and then I hit it again in the first sentence, okay, because those are the two components that tend to have the longest legs.
Okay. Right.
So when you talk about your topic, and your topic for any individual blog does not have to extend to the next blog. Your brand name does.
Okay. All right, so this has been very helpful. Thank you. I didn't have the brand right. I didn't have it. I didn't have my brand complete. So thank you. I realize now that I have to have some kind of identity, and obviously my identity is a human fairy. So I'm either Clarissa.
Exactly.
I'm either C. Jill Hefty, the human fairy, or I'm Clarissa Hedgestone, the human fairy. So I have to decide if where I'm going, what. But thank you. That was really a gift today. Thank you. That was huge for me. Took me. Because now maybe I'd be willing to spend $1,000 for that bloody website.
I was thinking last night. I'm going to have to give Greg $1,000 to do my website. No doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it, and all, and that's just the way it is. If we're going to market ourselves, we do have to spend. The old adage is you got to spend money to make money, and this is what I've seen with Catherine more than any other author. She's willing to spend money to have someone evaluate her blog, to see if it's doing, if it's generating the keywords correctly. Of course, she spent the money with the wrong person, but that's still, the point.
At least it wasn't a relationship. And bad or something. Catch a bad disease or something.
Yeah. But this is why I do talk about various programs that are offered, but I'm very cautious about having you spend money. Because the tendency is for us to spend and not fulfill. And I don't want to, we've got enough things to spend our money for that we don't want to buy something we're not going to use.
Yeah,
okay?
That's like facial creams.
Well, when you look like a desert rat like me, any kind of facial cream is worth it.
I'm finding out that coconut oil, is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, and it's not that expensive.
No, it's very inexpensive. Yeah.
Lather up,
Can I
the desert.
Say, Rama, what if in the future, we take our little group here, because there seem to be some really good regulars here, and what if we each wrote a blog, and then we took 3 on a Saturday morning and went through them?
And looked at how we're using our keywords. Okay, we could do that.
How we're not using our keywords.
Well, that's it. But if we've identified our keywords, then maybe Anaria has an insight into how you can incorporate that, and still have that blog posting the way you want. This is actually a really good idea. I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to set it up through a reminder. The other thing that I'm gonna be doing starting this week is in my early week reminder, I'm gonna have some of these components about the Raman writing. I'm gonna try to have the current webinar listing and bring a little bit more of that branding into my early week email, because there are authors in our publishing program that seem to open that one and not open the one that goes out late in the week, so they don't find out about the webinars because they're not opening stuff. And and I can understand that, because Tom sends out so many emails that you can't keep track of it. I don't open any of them. So when people ask me about the author development stuff, I say, I don't know. I didn't open that email.
We know you're on Saturday morning, you're on Tuesday, and you're on Wednesday. And this isn't hard. And so if a few of us started writing some blogs that we were going to bring to the table, and we read our blog, and then you guys pick it apart of help resculpt it, where it's like, oh, right, you're right, that word in here would be fantastic, so that we're really getting it. That way everybody else can participate and start going into the mindset of what we're all trying to accomplish here.
And my daughter, she's a senior in high school, and they have an app at her school, and I can find out what it is, but they blog. In her English class, they blog, and each one of their peers can go in and they critique that blog. Exactly. And they comment on it. Yes, and they just downloaded the app, but I could find out what that was, and that's something that we could all do. And and it wouldn't really take up so much time on these Saturday mornings, because we could all go in the app and critique everyone and look at everyone's blogs.
Well, I think what Anari is really getting at is that if we put up a blog posting, share the screen, and actually go through the components together, it's gonna filter in through the hat into the gray matter. Okay, first step of this is this. Okay, so anyone that wants to participate, what I want you to do is to come up with your branding identity that like Amy has, lady engineer Amy Dean, okay? And also come up with a list of topics that are keywords that you feel comfortable with writing maybe several blog postings about. Okay, start that way, but the most important component is the brand, okay? And some of you have one. Amy's got one, Darnita has one, Jill has one, she's just not sure yet which it is yet. Anaria definitely has one. I don't know about Dawn, Cheryl, Dominique, Miriam, at this point in time, okay? But I think that this is really a critical first step, okay? Is get your branding identity. And the branding identity, in my thinking, should be the name of the blog. And if we have several branding identities, well, then we have several blogs, okay? So let's look at it that way. Dominique.
I'm totally following what you're saying, but there's something in me that feels like it might be a little bit limiting, because when I look at my blogs, I'm writing about everything. That doesn't really, and Jill, I know where you're coming from, what you said earlier, and there is something about it that puts you back in a box, or can put you back in a box. I see the exercise, but I really don't want to limit myself. If I want to talk about the chili the Hot Chili in Fall or Carnival somewhere in Europe or something like this. How do I brand that? And I don't want to limit myself in, yes, I wrote something on the Grand Canyon and I love it, but I don't have to write all the time about that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if there is a way to think about different blogs. On my website that is not my author website, my blog is essentially the same as my logo, which is Reimagine and Thrive. And I write about lots of stuff. It's kind of random. When I think about my author website and my book in terms of using it to sell my book, I feel like I want to start out being a little more connected to the book. But you can have more than one blog. You could have several blogs on WordPress that could link to each other.
Absolutely. But your Reimagine and Thrive is a wonderful hashtag, So you could write under that as the blog title, even though it may not totally tie into your book. It's like your logo, as you said, okay? And you've already got an identity there. I wouldn't throw it out, okay? I would use that as the title. Now, I hear what you're all saying, and so think of it this way then. How about identifying keywords for a blog? Okay, Dominique, one of your blog keywords could be chili peppers. Okay, and then you would use chili peppers in that blog posting, 3 or 4 times, and then you can go on to another keyword topic for your next blog posting. But I think it's important for you to come up with an identity for the name, and the name could be anything. Okay.
I do like Dawn's name because it's very broad. Mm-hmm. It's not limiting, because if I feel like I'm writing a blog and I limit myself with a word, it might handicap my blog, if you know what I mean. I want to be free in thinking, and again, not box thinking.
Can I interject here?
So you could title your blog Out of the Box.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good work.
Out of the box. And that's also what your book is about. It's out of the box. And it's the same with Dominique. It's the same with Jill. So you're writing about chili peppers, which had nothing to do about your book. But if you want to promote your book, all right, right at the end, take any character in your book or the spaceship. Say, maybe Mia on the spaceship would like chili peppers.
Oh, actually, she's eating some.
You see what I mean? Just that fast. Like, that was just a few words, you pulled it right back to your book. And it's like, oh, she's got this book. This is interesting. Mia on a spaceship book. And you just pull them right back in.
So you write that at the end or at the beginning?
It depends. It depends on, and you may want it at the beginning or the middle or the end. It depends.
You at the beginning would be back to the branding, what you say.
Right, and then you've got the branding, and then you're off on chili peppers. And and it's so beautiful in the Southwest in the fall, yada yada, and it smells so good. And then I think Mia would like to have those in her spaceship. She does. Out of left field, and we're going, what? Oh, and she's got this book about Mia on a spaceship? Oh, I gotta find out more about this. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And you didn't limit yourself at all. Okay?
I know.
You can go out of the box, and because of the what you're writing, you could go anywhere, past, present, future, any time frame continuum, honey, and there it all is, and pull it all in and pull them back to your book. Okay, and there you got it. That's simple, and you didn't put yourself in the box. You're blowing out of the box, and that's what you're actually showing.
Maybe.
It's interesting, too. You might want to go on and look and see if anybody else has a blog by the titles that we're thinking of. I was thinking of something totally aside from my book, but in my coaching practice, as a title, when I went online, I saw someone else using the word in a way I did not want to be associated with. So that made me begin to rethink, oh, is that what I really want to use? Or if somebody already has the out-of-the-box blog brand, maybe it's no boxes. Maybe it's empty box. I don't know. You just start playing around with the words, so you keep the concept, but you end up with a different title.
Yes, yes. But I have to have something vast to do that opening. Some days I feel totally open, and some days it's kind of closing up. And
so maybe there's something about that.
Yeah. So anyway, no, that's very
the accordion box.
Huh?
The accordion box.
The accordion box. Yes, very nice. Yes. Yeah.
Box. What box?
Well, Cheryl, do you have an idea for your branding identity? Because I think you have a coaching practice too, or something, don't you?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes.
Yes. I just have been thinking about it, and I'm thinking about Spirit Woman Speaks.
Oh.
Because I used to write under that. It's open. It doesn't limit you in any way.
That's a good name.
That's a good name. Yep.
Okay, I'll use that then.
Perfect. And then Miriam, you kind of came late today. Let me see if I can get you to talk. Oh, hold on. I unmuted you and you unmuted you. Let me unmute you. Are you there, Miriam?
I'm here. Sorry I'm so late. I was actually on a really big hike this morning, and I injured my hip flexor, so it just took a lot longer to get back. So I apologize for that. Gosh, I really struggle with the branding and a good name. But I hear what some of you just said, and I'm going to have to ponder that. I feel like my branding, like Dominique was saying, that there's so many areas that she kind of looks at. And so for the book that I'm writing is very specific. When I went to the writing seminar, that's what came out. But I feel like other things that I write will not be like that at all. So I feel like I've got a much more broad area for anything that is upcoming. So I feel kind of torn as far as branding, because I don't really even identify myself as a brand for what I first started writing.
Well, it may take a little bit of sorting things out. Maybe come up with some names and email them in, and we can talk about them, see what happens. Branding names don't always come overnight, gang. It takes a little bit of thought, and it may take some trial and error. There's no problem with that, okay? But ultimately, over time, as we get into a rhythm, we're going to want to have a branding identity that we stick with. Because if we do it with a hashtag, then anytime somebody searches on that hashtag, even though they say that Google search doesn't work with hashtags, I'm pretty convinced that it's going to before too long. And when people say that hashtags don't work in Facebook, they're delusional, because they do, and stuff. So hashtagging a branding identity is an important component, and it's and if we only put it in the signature of our emails or the sign off of our blog posting, it's still effective.
Rama, may I say something? This is what helped me with my branding, and this just came to me. It wasn't something I was thinking about. It's probably something that Rama has said on one of your webinars, but I feel my branding is actually me, and that my followers are going to follow me no matter what subject I actually write about, because they see my alter ego, and they don't think of it as my blog, that I blog about these certain things, but this is who I am. Oh, that's who she is. I want to see what she has to say today. So that's how I've started, not trying, and that got me out of the box because I was the same thing. You know, I'm like, I'm writing fiction, I'm writing crime fiction. So how can anything I say about in a blog relate? Then it finally dawned on me, I'm not my book. That's not who I am. The book is just a part of me. So that's how I thought of it, and that got me out of my box, and it opened up so many opportunities for blogs.
What you say is you are so much bigger than your book.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not, I'm not the book. I am, my author.
You right now of your creative side, but you are just so much more vast.
Yeah, and that and I think if we could all think of it like that and not limit ourselves to that's my identity. This book is my identity because I may change and write a whole different genre the next time.
And what is your brand? What's your brand?
Oh, my branding is my author alter ego. And so I can write anything under that.
So you don't use your name? You just say my alter ego. My
author alter ego. I don't use my name. So I think,
why not?
I don't know. I just like that. I thought it was catchy.
But why can't you incorporate it and connect yourself with the author alter ego?
Well, my website is my name, and that's just my blog.
Oh, this is your blog. This is your brand.
Yes, that's my brand for the blog.
Oh, but this is not your brand for the essence of who you are.
No, that's for the blog.
Okay, I'm back into confusion, Rama. What are we doing? Are we doing a brand for the essence of who we are? Or are we doing a brand for blogging?
Well, isn't it the same thing, really?
No. I don't know.
To some degree it is, yes. Here's the scoop. If we have a name that is catchy and rolls off your tongue and maybe we're known, then we can perhaps use our name. I personally kind of like individual names for the blog, okay? If you'd listen to what I had said in my let me hold on. Let's see if I can come up with the line here. One of my pet peeves, as I spoke last week, is when you go to someone's website and all that you see is across the top, the menu says blog. That really doesn't inspire me to click on that blog, okay? It just doesn't. I may do it because I want to find out what the author or what the person is writing about, but if it said author alter ego blog, I'd say, wow, that is cool sounding. Okay, I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna be more inclined to click through. Okay, so we have to kind of look at that component behind it, and your blog is you. Okay, whether you believe this or not, your blog is your identity out there. It's going to have the longest legs of anything that you create. So by coming up with a name that you're comfortable with, for Dominique, out of the box or something like that is great.
So something came up. Whispers in the Wind blog.
Whispers in the Wind. Perfect. Very cute. Use alliteration. Rolls off the tongue. Very good. Very good. You're looking for something that's memorable, easy to remember, unique if we can find it, and go with that.
I just don't want to box myself in. That's why.
Yeah. Why aren't you using why aren't people using their name? Because if they want to, if we want to put ourselves out there, our identity is our name.
Like Whispers in the Wind by Dominique Severino.
Yeah. I think Dominique, it's such a beautiful name. Dominique's
Whispers in the Wind.
Whispers in the Wind. something.
Well, when people go back to your website, it's like my website is DernitaCollins.com. That's my website.
Right.
So people are eventually going to associate that. If they see a blog under my branding name, when they go back to read the rest of it,
But I think that's true. But at the same time, I think if you repeat for people, that is really helpful. And so if you keep repeating who your name is and doing it in different places, I think people are going to more apt remember you. That's what I think. But
I'm not sure if I go for that for a number of reasons. First off, your blog is going to be posted on social media, okay?
Right.
So, it's in your account. It's in Jill's account. So do you need to, say your name again, or is Human Fairies blog enough? I don't know.
It's coming from your account, which is going to have your name on it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. See, I don't know enough. I know when I worked with Denise, she just put Clarissa Hedgestone for me to Twitter on. She didn't use C. Jill Hefty. She used Clarissa Hedgestone.
So she used a fan or a character page.
Yeah, she used a character that I created. So I don't know. I don't know enough about this, but Clarissa Hedgestone is a character that I created.
I think it depends on what your name is, too. I think it's important to have the keyword or your identity and your name also. Like, I have a common name. There's a zillion scratchlings out there, and I found all of them on Ancestry, and I write about family history. But that's not the whole story. I think having the blog name is also important. They will associate with you over time.
Mm-hmm.
The branding. But I thought we were talking about brand, period. I didn't know I am so confused now, because branding, I thought, was the whole essence. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about branding, which means what is the name of your blog?
Well, if you remember last week's topic, it was called branding your blog.
Well,
that's what the topic was, and that's essentially where we've gone from. There are tons of different approaches, that you can use. There's a million experts, and just like economists, no two people think alike.
Okay? Right.
So, if you want to, use your name, you can certainly do that. That's a possibility. I kind of like Clarissa Hedgestone. I like Human Fairies.
Well, I thought I'd use both. Yeah. I thought I'd use Clarissa Hedgestone, the Human Fairy. That's what I was thinking. Or I have another idea, but the other idea was for blogging. For the continuity, I'll just go back. This would be the easiest thing for me to do, is change the character that I have for each blog and just put Clarissa in, or Clarissa Hedgestone. And that's why I could have continuity.
Hold it right back to your book.
Yeah, that would be the easiest thing for me to do. I wouldn't have to, the integrity of it would change. It wouldn't be the same. It's just a name change.
So now you're getting the idea.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you got it. You see, Jill likes telling you why she can't do something, and then when she actually does it, it only takes her like a minute, because she's and it's really comical. But I think there's a lot of that in all of us.
Yes.
I think it's beautiful. Okay, gang, let's work on branding. Maybe we'll go back to branding in next week's webinar. I'm not sure exactly what. I had an author lined up, but she bailed on me, so I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. And I want to thank you all for coming along today. I think that I saw a number of light bulbs go off in people's heads, and all. I think that we've got a lot of good start on this process. And understand that we're at the beginning. So if we have a false start, we have a false start. We can change it. It's not that we would lose a lot. So understand that as well. There's nothing in concrete here. So let's experiment. Let's play. Let's see what happens. And let's come up with our identity. And then stick with it for a while. And, it may work real easily. It may not. If it doesn't, then come up with a different idea.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to take off and have breakfast. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.
This was the best Saturday for me. Rama, this was an exceptional Saturday. Great.
We all do.
It was good. Everybody. Open mic. I like the open mic.
I do too. I like people talking. Okay, everyone.
Rama, you're the best. You are the best, Rama.
Take care.
You are a best-selling author.
Thank you, Rama.